Okay, today we are going to be covering lesson 1.1. It's over linear equations. So the big thing with linear equations is every operation in math has an opposite operation. So like the opposite of adding is subtracting, the opposite of multiplying is dividing, the opposite of an exponent is a root. Every single math operation has an opposite. So to be able to solve and isolate the variable, we have to move whatever is with our variable, our letter, our unknown, to the other side. So we want to get whatever letter, like on this one it's x, we're going to get x equals. So absolutely everything with x has to go to the other side of the equal sign. And the only way to move something across the equal sign is to do the opposite of what is happening with it. So, with all that being said, this is my first time using this stuff in a little bit, y'all. So we have 2x equals 6. Right now, since there's not an addition, subtraction, or division sign with this, it's multiplication. So if they're touching like this, it's always multiplication. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide by 2 on both sides. Whatever you do on this side to get the variable alone, you have to do on the other side. You can't do something to one side without the other. So 2 divided by 2 gives us 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we have x equals 3. And this would be 1x. But we never put a 1 with a letter, because if it was 0, 0 times anything is 0. So let's see if I can just type this in easily. Nope. The internet's been really slow, so I hope it's not going to be rough. Okay. Here we have 3x plus 15 equals 0. So first thing we do, it's the opposite of PEMDAS, so we're going to do this plus 15 first. So the opposite of adding 15 is subtracting 15. So we're going to subtract 15 from both sides. 15 subtract 15 is 0. So then I'm going to have 3x equals negative 15. I hope y'all can hear me okay since I'm turning. Divide by 3, because the opposite of multiplying is division. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we're going to have x equals, and then negative divided by a positive is still a negative, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. So our answer is negative 5. I might have to move this keyboard over here. Next question. Okay, well, first let's erase. I think I got out of the thing. 7x minus 5 equals 0. So 7x subtract 5 equals 0. So first we're going to move the subtract 5. So the opposite of subtracting 5 is adding 5. Negative 5 plus 5 is 0. So I'm going to have 7x equals positive 5. I don't have to put the positive there, we assume. So then opposite of multiplying by 7 is dividing by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1, so I have x equals 5 divided by 7 does not simplify. It's not like 14 divided by 7, we're not going to get 2. It's not 7 divided by 7, we're not going to get 1. If you have a number like that, type it in as the fraction. So we're going to have 5/7. Don't do, like it says, simplified fraction. Leave it as the fraction. Don't change it to a decimal, it won't take it. So this is going to be our answer. When I type it in, I'm going to do 5/7, because it'll make it the fraction in there. But I need to click that, and I'm going to type it in. 5/7. Okay. Okay, this one's a fraction. We have 1/5 x equals 7/10. Where do I want to do this at? 1 x equals 7/10. So whenever we have a fraction, I think I'm just going to go that way. We multiply, like it's 1 times x right now divided by 5. So it's the same as x over 5 right now, because you multiply by the top and divide by the bottom, equals 7/10. So the opposite of dividing by 5 would be to multiply by 5. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. And then 5, this would end up being, here I'm going to write it out, 5x over 5. Here. This is my tangent. 5x over 5, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. So I'm going to go ahead and do that there, because that's going to turn into this. And then here we're going to multiply the 7 by the 5 and divide by the 10. So I'm going to have x equals, I'll just write it out over here, 7 times 5 over 10. So 7 times 5 is going to be 35 over 10. Oh, that's ugly. I don't like it. Okay. Rewrite. 7 times 5 is 35 over 10. This thing needs to be calibrated. Okay. And then we're going to reduce this. I use comma to separate answers as needed. They might take 3.5. I doubt it. What goes into 35 and 10? It's going to be 5, so I'm going to reduce this by 5 on both sides. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. So I'm going to end up with 35 divided by 5 is 7. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And I'm going to type in the answer as 7/2. They might take 3.5 as well. Let me click it. Next question. If y'all have any questions on these, let me know, because I'll gladly answer them for you. I just don't know which specific parts to, I guess, harp on. Okay, this is our first question to have 2 variables. So I have an x here and an x here, because we have 3x plus 8 equals x. So whenever we're solving, we need all the unknowns on one side and our numbers on the other. So since there's just an x on this side, I'm going to go ahead and do subtract 3x. So 3x subtract 3x over here is 0, so that one's gone. And I'm going to have 8 equals, and remember this is 1. So 1 subtract 3, I have $1, I spent 3, so I still owe you 2, so negative 2x. This is multiplying here. There is this negative here, but that's not a subtract. For it to be an operation, it has to be between the number and the letter. And since there's not one, that's multiplying. So we're going to divide by negative 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and it's a positive divided by a negative, so I have negative 4 equals x. Okay, type that in. I need to bring a little keyboard. Just remember, whenever we have 2 variables, or however many they give us, if it's the same variable, they go together on one side, numbers on the other. The internet could be worse. It would. I don't 2t minus 4 equals 20 subtract t. Okay. I always want my variables, like the last problem, there wasn't anything on one side, so I went ahead and subtracted the 3t, which gave me the negative letter. So if it's like this though, I always want to have a positive letter. So I'm going to take whichever one is less, like 2 is more than negative 1. So I'm going to add this t over here. And then since my letters are going to be over here, I'm going to move this 4 over here. So I'd add 4 to 20. And then negative 4 plus 4 is 0. Negative t plus t is 0. So I have 2t plus 1t, which is 3t equals 20 plus 4 is 24. So once I go ahead and do that, it should be letters on one side, numbers on the other, and then 3t. I want to know how much 1t is worth, so I'll divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 24 divided by 3 is 8. Okay, another one. We have 6 subtract x equals 4x plus 31. Negative 1 is less than 4, so I'm going to add this x here, and then that's going to be 0 there. I'm going to subtract 31 from 6, so this is 0 here. 6 subtract 31 should be negative 25 equals 4 plus 1 is 5x. Then we want to figure out how much 1x is. So divide by 5. Negative 25 divided by 5 is negative 5 equals x. I was checking the problem in my head. I know there's going to be some of the extraneous ones in a minute. Our answer is negative 5. And I'll show you what it is because I'm pretty sure they're in here. Okay. Erase. So I have 8 plus 4n equals 6n plus 2. So 4 is less than 6, so I'm going to subtract 4n. I always do my letters first because that tells me how this problem's going to go. And then plus 2, opposite's going to be subtract 2. And then it's 0 over here. So 8 subtract 2 is 6. 6 subtract 4 is 2n. That's multiplying, so we divide. 3 equals n. One big thing on this I usually get questions on is you have to watch your signs because one negative, the whole problem's wrong. And that sucks, but you really have to pay attention, like if it's positive or negative. Okay, make sure that's in screen. Okay, 5 times 2 is 10. Oh, I should talk about that. It's our first problem. This is multiplication. So right here, 2 plus 2x, I can't combine them. So when they put a number right out front, it's not added or subtracted to it. It's 5 times everything that's in here. So we have to distribute this 5, which is just multiply by 5. So I have to do 5 times this 2, and I also have to do 5 times this one. So 5 times 2 is 10, and then 5 times 2x is 10x. And then same here. Since there's not a sign here, it's 9 times all of x minus 5, so 9 times x. 9 times negative 5, and then 9x is smaller than 10x, so I'm going to do subtract 9x, and that's going to be 0, and then I'm going to subtract this 10 over here. So 10 subtract 9x is just x, 1x. Negative 45 subtract 10, that's I spent $45 and I spent 10 more, so we add it, but we spent 55 total, so negative 55. My previous videos, I broke this up into sections of the problems, but I had a lot say that they'd rather it just be one long lecture. If y'all disagree with that and you're watching these, let me know and I'll break these into smaller videos again. Okay, so here this one's kind of tricky because it's subtract all of this. So we have to distribute this negative in here. So I'm going to have 9x, and it's a negative times a positive, so negative 5x. Negative times a positive, so it changes that to a subtract 4. Okay. Then whenever there's two things that are the same on the same side, I combine them first to avoid having to change signs and keep up with it as I'm going. So right here, this 9x subtract 5x, I do that first to get 4x, and then this just comes down because it's not 9x subtract that. I can't combine it unless they both have x's. Okay, 4 is less than 9, so I'm going to subtract 4x. And then that's 0 over here, so my numbers are over here. I'm going to add 49 to negative 4. And that's 0 here. So negative 4 plus 49 would be positive 45. 9 subtract 4 would be 5x. Then we divide by 5. 45 divided by 5 is going to give us 9. I don't have a good place to write that. So x is going to end up equaling 9 because 5 divided by 5 is 1. I didn't click it. Ooh, fractions. Oh, everybody hates fractions. 1/2 x minus 4 equals 5/8. What did I do? Stop it. Well, that was interesting. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 1/2 from 5/8. I should talk more about that. So if I was to change 1/2 into eighths, half of 8 would be 4 over 8, right? So, I'm just going to tangent here. 1/2 equals 4/8 because half of 8 is 4. So if I was to reduce this, we'd have that. So these things right here are the same. These are equal. All right, back to black. It's not calibrated. I can really see it there. Cool. All right, and then I'm going to have subtract 4. Go away. Equals 5/8 x. So I'm moving 4/8 to 5/8 because 4/8 is less than 5/8. 4 subtract 5 is going to give me 1/8 x. 1/8 x. And then that's going to equal this negative 4 because I haven't used it. Oh, this right here, since it's 1/8, this is the same as 1 times x is x over 8. Why is it so bad? So I'm going to do 8 times negative 4. I want to rewrite this somewhere. So right now I have negative 4 equals x over 8. So the opposite of dividing is multiplying. So we're going to multiply negative 4 by 8, which is going to be negative 32 equals x. Gosh. Yay. Erase. Decimals. I think it's just a little bit of everything on this one. So I have 0.3t equals 0.3 plus 0.8t. So this is like our other one. I always tell you to move the smaller one, but since it's the only one on this side, I'm going to go ahead and move my 0.8. So 3 subtract 0.8 is going to be 0.5, and it's negative because that one's bigger. And 0.5 t equals 0.3. Then we're going to divide by this negative 0.5. And anything divided by itself, no matter how ugly it is 1. So t equals 0.3 divided by negative 0.5. I want to just put negative 3/5. If you want to get a TI calculator, the ones I recommend are the TI-30XS Multiview. I should have brought one with me to show y'all, because I'm going to check this on my calculator on my phone, because I don't want to tell y'all wrong. 0.3 divided by 0.5 is 0.6, which is going to be 3/5. And then remember, this is negative because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. And it should want it as a decimal because the problem had decimals. If not, we'll change it. Remember, you can answer these problems as many times as you want till you get them all right. Try and get 100 on all your homeworks. I know you don't want to every time, and you don't have to. It's just something that it gives you a little cushion in your grade for when you take your test. Oh wait, this one, whenever you have two denominators, to be able to add them, they have to have a common denominator. Like if I wanted to add 1/2 and 1/3, I'd have to convert them both to be 6 so that they're common, so that I could add both of them. So whenever we need to do the common denominator, we have to look at what they are and what is their least common multiple. So 4 and 7 multiply to get 28. And there's not a smaller one because 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 7 goes 7, 14, 21, 28. Lots of things come out of my mouth. So our common denominator is going to be 28. So I have to get all of these to 28. 2 is currently over 1, which is important. Don't forget about your 2 over there. So to get these all to 28, 4 has to be multiplied by 7 to get 28. So I'm going to do 7 times x plus 3. And that would put that over 28. And then 7 times what gets us to 28? That's going to be 4. And it's going to be times x plus 3. And then to get 2 to 28, since it's over 1 right now, it has to be multiplied by 28. This is what everyone forgets to do on this problem. Multiply 2 by 28. And then we're to a normal problem. So 7 times x, 7 times 3 is 21. I need to write bigger because that's ugly. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 3 is 12. 28 times 2 is 56, I believe. Then combine the same terms on the same side. So 7x plus 4x, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11x. 21 plus 12 is going to be 33. Equals 56. Then we're going to subtract our 33. 56 subtract 33, 5 subtract 3, 6 subtract 3. We're going to have 23. 11x equals 23. I'm going to move this over here, y'all. So we have 11x equals 23. And then we're going to divide by our 11. 11 divided by 11 is 1. 23 is not divisible by 11, so we're going to see if 23 over 11 is the answer. If you get ugly answers, try not to doubt yourself, because sometimes I think they do it just to make you doubt yourself and make you think you did it wrong. I don't try to put those problems on the test though, because I just want y'all to be able to do it. I don't want you to get stressed out trying to. Okay. This is going to be our first one of these. Okay. So let's rewrite this. We're going to have x times 3x minus 4 equals 3x plus 2 times x minus 6. This over here, we're still going to distribute, but it's 3x plus 2 times x minus 6, all of it. So we're going to have to do what they call FOIL, or multiplying polynomials. So let's go ahead and do this. 3x times x is going to be 3x squared, because there's two x's now. And whenever there's multiple of the same thing, we put an exponent with it. So 3x squared. Then x times negative 4, I'm going to have negative 4x. 3x times x, there's two x's now, so 3x squared. 3x times negative 6, 6 times 3 is 18. And since it was a subtract over there, it's negative 18x. 2 times x is going to be positive 2x. 2 times negative 6 is going to be negative 12. Combine like terms on the same side, so we're going to combine these two right here. So I'm going to have 3x squared minus 4x equals 3x squared minus 16x minus 12. Okay, I'm going to start with my x squareds and move them to the same side. If you notice, they're the exact same. So when I go to subtract one, because there's not a smaller one, they're both the same, so they are gone. So I'm left with negative 4x equals negative 16x subtract 12. So I'm going to move both of those to the same side. Negative 16 is smaller than negative 4. I'm moving it over here. And the opposite of a negative is a positive, so that makes it 0 here. 16x subtract 4x is going to be 12x equals negative 12. When we divide by 12, we're going to have x equals negative 1. Okay, keep going. The internet didn't work like I needed it to, and so now I got to rush to get to my class. Okay, so we have z times z cubed plus 1 equals 10 plus z to the 4th. This one's a silly one. Z times z3, so total z's, there's 3 z's here and 1 z here. So we're going to have z to the 4th. Z times 1, anything times 1 is itself. Then I'll have 10 plus z to the 4th. So neither of these are smaller because they are the exact same. So when I go to combine them, opposite of positive is negative, opposite of adding, subtracting, it's 0, so we end up with z equals 10. If y'all need a better explanation on that, let me know. I don't know how I could explain it better, but I could try for you. X over x plus 1 equals 7/6. Since there's nothing being added or subtracted on the sides of these, like I don't have to find a common denominator because there's not anything on the sides. But if I were to find the common denominator, it'd be 6 times x plus 1. So that's why this works. Because if I was doing 6 times x plus 1, I have to multiply that side by 6, and I'd have